Welcome to Overthinking Episode 4, where we take fun, interesting ideas, overanalyze them, and run them to their logical conclusions, all in the name of exploration, education, and most importantly, entertainment.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Devin.
And we don't claim to be experts in any of the topics we discuss here today. We simply find these ideas interesting as we hash them out in real time. Get ready to join us on this exciting, fun, and crazy ride to nowhere.
This week, we are in between the canvas and the painting in Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. It's quite cozy.
That is.
Between.
Yeah, that's because Van Gogh's Starry Night is my favorite painting of all time.
That's why I picked that one.
Yeah,
Luke.
and
it's for you.
It's
so we're nestled in tight and cozy.
Yeah, it means so much to me, and it's hilarious that you mentioned that because this actually ties into my topic today, and you didn't even know that. It actually is exactly what my topic is about. So yeah, look at that. We're just on a similar level.
What are you drinking today, Luke?
I am drinking good old-fashioned water in a 20-ounce. What is it called? Just a steel bottle.
Okay.
Double-walled. Has a little.
It's like a to-go
thing.
mug.
Exactly.
Like a travel mug.
My throat needs more water in my life.
Well, see, I thought I was a designated driver today because I thought that's what I thought I remembered. So
yeah,
I'm drinking coffee.
I'm laying off of alcohol for a little bit, so
Okay.
maybe next week.
Episode 4, our least sophisticated drink of the show.
Exactly. You know what we're doing today? Today we're both sober. We're both sober each episode.
No, this one's gonna be way less
clear.
than we're not just because of that.
We're not just doing shots before this. But before we get into our topic today, let's ease into this and let's go to Secrets Uncovered. Devin, you have something for us today?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you because I kind of have 2 secrets uncovered. Then I decided, you know what? No, I'm not gonna ask. I'm just gonna do 2 secrets uncovered.
Let's do it. Take life by the hair and just go. I'm doing this, and then because I kind of
had 2. I actually had 3, but only 2 that seemed super fitting to explain, like really surreal moments in the last week. Well, since the last recording, and one of them was just this realization that I had one night when I was working. And it was just mind-boggling to me that, like, when you're on point and you're focused, how much you can get done in 1 hour. And then when you're trying to be on point and focused, how little you can get done in 1 hour.
Well, how little you can get done one day.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But, like, same time frame, if everything's kept the same, like 60 minutes.
Right.
I can get 3 days worth of work done in the right 60 minutes.
Yep.
And I can get absolutely nothing done in the wrong 60 minutes.
Well, it's interesting because we talked about this on when you came onto my other podcast about productivity and how that can be a bad thing because then we can remember that and then that's constantly in our mind and we're going, oh, I've done this before. I know I can do this.
What am I doing wrong now?
And exactly. Is there something wrong with me? Was that a fluke? And that just leads to I know because I do this to myself all the time. and I realized that was like a really bad way to talk to myself, number one. And secondly, I realized, like, if you're at 100% constantly, then not only will you burn, like, your body and mind will shut down. It's like a computer running at 100%. Is you have to choose when you run at 100%, ramp it up, and then dial it back down, and then, ramp it up again. It's basically, it's literally running the marathon, not the sprint, right?
Right.
I've realized like that phrase is like one of the most cliche phrases ever, but if you think about it in practicality of how you train and how you actually do it, it's literally how you should be working. Is that you choose your times to work hard, and then you choose your times to run slow, so that way you can run hard later.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Am I talking about the same thing you were talking about, or?
Your mindset's different, but yes.
Okay.
I was very much more of the just like, how entertaining is it that when I sit down to work, 1 hour can be great, and then the next day the same time slot can just be like nothing happens.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What's your second one?
My other one was this is so. Anybody listening, I'm gonna caveat this before I start talking about it. In my day job, I work with kids.
Right.
Great. So I saw this. Do
you want to say what you do or no?
Well, what I do is really loose right now.
Okay, that's fine.
Basically, I'm becoming a teacher.
Okay.
I'm not a teacher yet.
All right. I just wanted a caveat so that way people have context around like what you do.
So I saw this quote from Bill Nye that says, every person you ever meet will know something you don't. And that quote feels cheesy, and I didn't really.
But I think I saw that around Twitter too.
Right. But then yesterday, I was having a conversation with a 7-year-old little girl who was with her parents at a jewelry store. But actually, no, one of them's her parent and the other one isn't. And they're shopping for a wedding ring for an engagement.
Okay.
And I'm talking with this little girl, and she's telling me about school, and she's telling me about how her mom's getting married. And I just realized as I'm talking to her, like, there are legitimate and legitimately hard life experiences that this 7-year-old girl has gone through that I will never be able to relate to.
Yep.
And it's not like an undermining like my life or overemphasizing her life. It's just there are different experiences that different people have that you will never be able to fully understand. Mm-hmm. Right?
It is. Yeah. Especially with kids though, because they definitely undervalue that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that was what made me think of the Bill Nye quote. I was like, I get that better now.
Yeah, and so the way I always like to phrase it, because I don't necessarily, I mean, I guess no. I prefer putting in experiences, like someone has experienced something, like what you have experienced is 100% unique, and no one else has experienced it because you interpret it the way you do. This is tying into my. I don't want to get too. Darn it! Well, I'm getting into my point, and I don't want to do that before it's my time. But that's a little tease for what I'm going to get into, because it's something I'm very passionate about. And I'm surprised I haven't talked about it yet. I kind of.
Do you have a secret for us, Luke?
Not really. I mean, one thing. I mean, I'll tie. I'll do what I'll do because it's a little like short. I'll tie it into my topic.
Okay. So then I have another question for you then for the time gap. Do you know what's special about today while we're recording
it's the Super
today?
Bowl. The Super
Who do you got?
Going, what?
Who do you have?
Who's
for the
playing
Super Bowl?
the Chiefs and the who? This is how bad I am. I don't enjoy sports at all.
So I'm not laughing because
yes, you are.
No, I didn't say I'm not laughing. You cut me off mid-sentence. I'm not laughing because you don't know. I'm laughing because I don't know either.
Wait, did you know the Chiefs were playing at all?
No.
Hi,
I have no idea who's playing.
I need more than you. Wait, who is... See, this is bad. So we're going to lose most...
49ers and the Chiefs.
49ers. I got it. Okay, yeah. Those are two names I've never heard in the Super Bowl before. I didn't know that those were good teams.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Of the 49ers, I know because I thought they were like a really notoriously bad team. Then again, though, I haven't watched a football game since Super Bowl of 2016, 15. Oh no, that's not true. I did watch part of a football game at Thanksgiving, simply because it was on and there was people there, and I was like, I'll go there. But I had no idea who it was college football, so I was like, who are these people?
Oh, weird.
Yeah, and apparently there's two.
Doesn't watch the Cowboys on Thanksgiving?
I don't know. Maybe
you watch football. That's who you watch.
Maybe I don't know, dude. I'm so bad with it. If I'm gonna, I feel like the way it's still. I'm like an old man, and the fact that you know how like middle-aged older people are like, why would you watch someone play video games? You just play them yourself. I'm the one that goes, why would you watch a sport when you just play it yourself? And I get.
I agree with both of those.
I think about video games, the difference is that by doing it yourself, you don't really gain a whole lot other than enjoyment. So you're getting enjoyment by watching someone who's funny and good at the game, and you're also getting enjoyment by playing. So for me, it's pretty equal. The enjoyment I get while playing versus watching. Versus actually playing a sport is good for you physically, mentally. Like there's so many benefits to actually playing sports versus watching sports, which is just enjoyment. That's why.
All right, Luke, I think you've overthought this one. Let's move on.
Yep. Okay, I'll take that. Yep.
You want to get into your topic? What are we talking about?
Well, you're talking first, right?
Oh, am I? Okay.
Right? I thought we decided. We went on a long conversation beforehand, and we still don't know.
So,
What do you have for us?
Luke, I'm gonna read you a story. And
Okay.
out of a book.
Out of a bit unorthodox, but I like it.
I had a bigger topic that I really wanted to get into. Then I was like, the last episode was different, and then I didn't really do a thought experiment episode before that. So I decided I'll get back to a traditional thought experiment, and we'll have some fun with it.
Okay.
But this is actually a great philosopher wrote this, and I'm not going to name him because I'm super curious to see if any point in the future, if anyone can ever tell us who this is, and that'll be fun for me.
I love the way your mind works. I will say that. That is the most Devin thing I have heard from you in a long time.
That wasn't even actually my idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The person who gave me this book, I told him I was going to use it, and it was his idea.
Oh, interesting. So maybe you're just easily influenced then, and you're just a collaboration of people who've influenced you, and that's who I see as Devin.
Maybe. I mean, maybe that's how we all work.
It is. That's what
that's
that
not
was.
my topic
That was
today.
the joke. Is that we're all influenced by people. We are.
All right.
That's who we are.
So I'm gonna read this story, and I'm gonna stop at some times that I found fitting, and we're gonna talk about it.
Okay. I like it.
All right. I enter the teletransporter. I have been to Mars before, but only by the old method, a spaceship journey taking several weeks. This machine will send me at the speed of light. I merely have to press the green button. Let me stop right there. It's a teleporter.
Okay.
Right? Before I go on, what are your thoughts about the notion of teleportation?
Okay, that was one of the topics that I was gonna mention in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find the author. I know his name, and I think I know who it is. I won't spoil it though for any. I won't try to guess, just in case I do. I guess I could always edit it out as well. Teleporters for me mean one of two things based on what happens. Either they don't work because there's something about people that is not just matter being replicated. Because basically a teleporter's work would be analyzing your composition and then rebuilding you. So if that doesn't work and we come up with like an empty husk of a person that looks like you, then obviously, or they don't have their memories, there's something about you that is immaterial. And that will lead to a lot of really interesting discoveries. If they do work, the question is, did you die? And is this a different person with your memories?
Cool. Okay.
So either way, they scare me a lot.
Cool. I'm going to keep reading.
Okay.
Like others, I am nervous. Will it work? I remind myself what I've been told to expect. When I press the button, I shall lose consciousness, and then wake up at what seems like a moment later. In fact, I shall have been unconscious for about an hour. The scanner here on Earth will destroy my brain and body, while recording the exact states of all my cells. It will then transmit this information by radio, traveling at the speed of light. The message will take 3 minutes to reach the receptor on Mars. This will then create, out of new matter, a brain and body exactly like mine. It will be in this body that I shall wake up. So he's describing the Star Trek style of teleportation that's never thought about. In Star Trek, they never talk about how this happens.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the step-by-step what happens.
Right.
Is even if it actually transmits the same matter, it destroys that matter first.
Well, and so there's an interesting episode of Star Trek where, and I only know about this not because I watched Star Trek, but because I watched a video on transporters that I think I sent you and I don't think you ever watched. I might have not sent it to you. I might have not sent it to me. But there's an episode in Star Trek where they scan the person, but there's a mistake. And they upload two people. So it doesn't disintegrate the person sitting there. Or it splits, either it doesn't discriminate the person there, but somehow there's two of them. There's two people, and neither one of them want to die.
Mm-hmm.
And so, right, so that's that's like the question of like, is it a different person? It is a separate person.
Yeah.
It gives me the chills because like all I can imagine is like me going, I'm going to the transporter, and then boom, and then to the notion of everybody else, they see Luke coming out, but I'm no longer there to experience it. That's what terrifies me. So yeah, go ahead.
Though I believe that this is what will happen, I still hesitate. I remember seeing my wife grin when at breakfast today I revealed my nervousness. As she reminded me, she has been often teleported, and there is nothing wrong with her. I press the button. As predicted, I lose and seem at once to regain consciousness, but in a different cubicle. Examining my new body, I find no change at all. Even the cut on my upper lip from this morning's shave is still there. Several years pass, during which I am often teleported. I am now back in the cubicle, ready for another trip to Mars. But this time, when I press the green button, I do not lose consciousness. There is a wiring sound, then silence. I leave the cubicle and say to the attendant, "It is not working. What did I do wrong?" The attendant replies, "It's working," and handed me a printed card that reads,
Oh, no.
"The new scanner records your blueprint without destroying your brain and body. We hope that you will welcome this opportunities which this technical advancement offers."
I am so uncomfortable right now. Like, I cannot tell you how, like, not necessarily anxious, but like terror. Like I'm like feeling like someone's behind me with an axe. Like, makes me feel.
Okay.
Like that. Like that's what's going on right now as you're reading that.
Do you want to dig into that, or you want me to keep reading?
I don't. Is there anything to dig? I don't know if there's anything to dig on.
Why do you? What makes you uncomfortable with that?
Because the thought of, well, first of all, the thought of me dying and then somebody else who everyone thinks is me continuing to live my life makes me so, like, personally very angry because I'm like, hey, that's mine. Stop stealing it. But also it terrifies me for them because then I'm like, wait. If that's not me, then everybody else could be that trusts me could be in danger. And if for some reason that person now ends up hurting them, then they think it was me that did that.
So that isn't quite what happened here, though, right?
No, it's not. But I'm saying like that's like part of the reason. But and then the thought of splitting is that I think it's more of the fear of unknown than anything else. It's just like, what if that continues and then there's lots of me's and then I can't trust, like no one will ever be able to trust. That's what it is. If there's duplicates of myself, no one will ever be able to trust me.
Right. So the one that gets me with that is if we've perfectly replicated everything about you, so you have the same memories, the same experiences, everything's exactly the same. At this exact moment in time, you're effectively carbon copies.
Right.
But right now, this version of this character is learning about this new system, and the other one isn't.
Yes.
Or maybe they are, but they're being told by somebody else.
Exactly.
So now they're getting new experiences.
Now they're changing into a different person.
Exactly. Actually, if you dig into this book, there's a few things that he's talking about heavily.
I'd really
but
like
it's
to
very
read
much.
that.
It's very much.
Just tell me.
I can't let you borrow it because it's not mine.
No, it's fine. No, I have it. I'll get it on I read a lot of ebooks.
Yeah.
So I'll just get it on.
It's very much like identity, and so what we just discussed is actually the distinction between numerical identity and quantitative identity. So numerical identity, you are Luke physically, and if I make a carbon copy, they could have the same quantitative identity. Everything's exactly the same, but they're not you.
Right.
There's
only
so
one
that's
of
a
me.
different. So well, in that case, you'd be Luke sub 1, they'd be Luke sub 2.
Yeah.
But qualitatively, you'd be identical.
Yeah.
Until you experience something different.
Exactly. And that's the point. So I want to read this book so bad. Now I'm so interested. So I'm going to bleep this out if I'm right. Then I also, because I kind of want to use, I've never bleeped anything out before. Because I've never had to in my videos.
So bleep it out regardless. That way people can guess wrong if you're wrong.
Exactly. So is it Arthur C. Clarke?
No.
Isaac Asimov?
And what? No.
Okay. Those are the two science fiction writers that I love.
So I was going to say the reason you're probably guessing wrong is this isn't a science fiction book. This is a philosophical book, and this is a small story he uses to illustrate a point, and then he digs into the philosophy of it.
What? And you're just telling me about this now?
Yeah.
Just tell me afterwards, and then
yeah. I'll also tell you this. This book is like 500 pages deep, and I started 200 pages in.
Okay, that's fine. Doesn't scare me.
All right, I'm going to continue the story.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
The attendant tells me that I am one of the first people to use the new scanner. He adds that if I stay for an hour, I can use the intercom to see and talk to myself on Mars. Wait a minute, I reply. If I am here, I can't also be on Mars. Someone politely coughs. He's wearing a white lab coat, and he invites me to a private conversation. We go to his office, where he tells me to sit down and pauses. Then he says, I'm afraid that we're having problems with the new scanner. It records your blueprint just as accurately as you will see when you talk to yourself on Mars. But it seems to be damaging the cardiac system when it scans. Judging from the results so far, you will be quite healthy on Mars. Here on Earth, you must expect cardiac failure within the next few days. I love this so much.
Oh my god! I love this so much. Oh, he took this. He took the act of killing and just postponed it, and that changed everything. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's the point in this story where most people all of a sudden become unhinged.
Yeah.
They're like, teleportation. You lose consciousness, you regain consciousness instantly, everything seems fine. But now, by just prolonging the process, he's showcased that you do actually kill somebody. And the new thing that's recreated with all these memories, that's why you have the experience of regaining consciousness. Because it has the memory of pressing the button. But it didn't.
Wow. That brings so many ethical things into consideration. Is it now illegal to kill him? Like, did that doctor just commit murder because he knowingly gave someone who is now gaining new experiences a fatal disease? Wow. I honestly would probably just tear through that. Like, I love this kind of stuff. And to think you kept it from me.
I didn't keep it from you for very long, actually.
You're
there are things that I'm keeping on the timeline that I learned a long time ago. But I have a good colleague who has a master's in philosophy, and we discussed this concept once, and then I asked him what resources he had. He gave me this book. Oh, yeah. And that was Friday.
That was it.
So.
Oh, that was Friday. Okay.
That was Friday.
Fine. I forgive you then.
All right. The story ends in this narration just with him talking to his self on Mars through a video call. And in that video call, his self on Mars is trying to console him in realizing that he's dying. And is ensuring him that I will take care of your wife. I still love her. I will finish the book that you're writing. I know all of it. And giving him the same consoling notions that he gave to a friend who died in the past. But now he can tell how useless they are.
Yes. I'm getting shit. Like, I have goosebumps all over my body. This is...
For anybody who's super curious about this, the notion that we're discussing it's called the branch line case.
The what?
The branch line case.
Okay, branch line case.
It's the case of the separation of yourself. It's the idea of cloning.
Okay.
So it's effectively the notion one of these entities, as soon as a clone is made, as soon as a replica is made, one of those entities continues on in the position as you.
Right.
The other one can't.
Right.
So then it brings the question, which one should take that role?
Exactly.
The fun way to create this as a thought experiment is if you actually pull it apart and you say, if you're instantly deconstructed and reconstructed, is it you?
Mm-hmm.
And then next step, if you aren't deconstructed but a replica is made, which one is you?
And if you die, and if one of those replicas dies within, a few hours or a few days, does that make the other one more you?
Right. We definitely know in this narrative that other one's continuing on as you.
Yeah. And from
Right.
our perspective, okay, what I'm about to say, that leads right into my point. Yeah, but from our perspective, that person is the person.
Right.
And the other
And
one
the
is
funny
the copy.
thing is,
but from everyone else's, the copy.
So
is
this
the
is
person.
something that he doesn't say that really interests me is the old way of teleportation in this narrative destroys the host instantaneously.
Right.
So that all their loved ones experience only the other version.
Right.
This gentleman has several days before his heart fails.
He's
going home to his wife.
Yeah.
She has to deal with the loss of her husband while knowing that her husband's on Mars.
Yeah. It's so yeah. See, that's why teleportation to me is so interesting. I think we simplify it a little too much, especially in even I did it. I wrote my science fiction book I was writing. I had teleportation. I never even thought about it.
Right. No, and I don't think anybody does think of the philosophical responses to a lot of what we do in sci-fi.
Yeah.
I think teleportation is a particularly fun one. But I think there's versions of teleportation that avoid this conversation altogether.
Yeah, there are.
Like the X-Men's version of teleporting is
which one?
This mutant has this ability.
Oh, he can just move his molecules through the air really fast or something,
And they seem to try to dodge the logical problem.
And it's also another interesting way of handling teleportation, which is I was writing. Did I ever tell you I was writing a science fiction series? I had 5
About 30
books.
seconds ago.
Okay. I was serious about it too. I had 5 books planned, chapter by chapter. I had everything. I had the first book a quarter of the way written. And then it was when I was young and I was going through stuff and I was there's so many problems with this. I need to put it on hold. But I think about it every single day. And it's something that once I have once I have some passive income flowing in and once it's something.
I get that.
It's something I really want to focus on. But one thing I used for transportation was wormholes, which is a nice, easy explanation for teleportation, which is we can bend space and time to where we can create a rift through it, and then that puts us through in another.
We're not doing Star Trek's teleportation.
Exactly.
We're literally just taking a shortcut.
Exactly. And I could always magic wand away, sci-fi away, teleportation and that. We just use the same technology just on a smaller scale for a person.
No, and that's actually a viable concept. It just has different repercussions.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Which time and space, which I'm not educated enough to actually say anything about when it comes to space time.
I'll keep this really simple. I'll keep this super simple. When you look up at the night sky and you see, maybe you're on a beach or in the middle of the woods somewhere and you see all the stars.
Yeah.
If a single one of them wasn't there, our life on Earth would be fundamentally different.
How so? We mean with the way gravity interacts? Is that what you're saying?
There's several potential concerns. One of them that's really silly that you can say without thinking about it, be like, you wouldn't see it there.
Okay, yeah, you got me on that one. Okay.
No, but there's really only 2 responses for what could have made that star not be there. Mm-hmm. Is one, the matter that created that star is somewhere else. Okay. Which will affect the equilibrium of the cosmos. Or the matter that created that star wasn't there at the beginning of creation or at the Big Bang or however you perceive it. And that would fundamentally change everything.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I get it. I mean, if anything was different, things would be changed in some way or another.
Right.
Especially the
my favorite way of
go.
hearing that. My favorite way of hearing that was if that star wasn't there, things would be different. We will never know how, and they might be so slightly different that we didn't know, but we also just might not be here.
Yeah.
Like the range is impossible to even comprehend.
Right.
But it would be different.
Huh. That is interesting. I didn't think about that. I thought you were gonna go the direction of like most of the stars are like don't exist anymore because they all exploded.
Oh no, that's a beautiful notion, and that's not true of most stars. That's true with some stars.
Yeah, sorry. Like I said, I'm not educated enough to talk about space, time, and gravity. Although I do know a little bit about the way black holes interact because
that's actually one of the things that keeps me like calm when I feel like things are crazy, my life's falling apart. Yeah. Is just the idea that like there's stars that supported solar systems that I'm looking at right now that have been dead for millions of years.
You want to know? Yeah, it is. And when I found that out, I was just like, wow, it makes each star so much more special because you're like, I'm looking at something that's timed, and I know it's timed because it doesn't exist anymore. It's not like, oh, in the future it will. No, now it doesn't, which is always a special thing for me. But you want to know a fun fact about the movie Interstellar that you might not know?
I haven't seen it, so
I honestly, I thought it was overhyped. I thought it was an okay movie. I thought it was too long. Here's how I describe Interstellar. It's 3 hours of da-na, 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 da-na. That's it. That's what Interstellar is. It's 3 hours of that because that's the theme song. And I can play. I have the piano behind me now. I can play it on you.
Do it.
What? No, I can't.
Do it.
Oh no, I won't be able to pick up through it.
Don't say I can do it and then not do it.
I was exaggerating. I didn't think you would call me out on it. I can technically.
Let the record show.
Fine, whatever. But
hey, I thought you had a soundboard now.
Oh yeah, I do have I played the Inception sound once, but it was really loud, and so I don't want to blow out listeners' eardrums, and I want to make more editing work for myself. So I'm gonna put the soundboard on hold right now until I figure out the volume issue.
All right.
But to create the black hole, they did something that's never ever been done before. Is they ran a physics simulation of if we had something with this much gravity and light was pouring in because light doesn't escape black holes. What would it look like? And they literally just ran a physics simulation. I forget how long it took. It took a long time for the computers we have and this physics simulation we have now to render it, but it rendered it in a way that they didn't expect, and which we now saw with that picture of the black hole that was released last year. Is that we don't see it in like a rings like Jupiter. You see it in a ring, but then the gravity's so strong that it's bending space to where you see the other ring as well. So the other ring is up. Are you looking at pictures of it?
No, I was trying to follow your description and I wasn't.
Okay. So basically, it was just the interesting thing they discovered is that if the projected gravity, like if what we expect how much gravity black holes to have, if they have this much, we can see it's so strong we can see around because it's bending space that much.
Oh, I see.
Right? So we can see over and we can see the ring on the other side of light that's swirling around and coming and being sucked into this black hole.
For just a scalar reference point, any amount of matter can create a black hole if it's compressed enough.
Right, exactly.
The Earth would need to be compressed into a sphere about the size of 1 inch diameter.
Oh, that
to
much?
create a black hole.
I thought it was smaller than that. Okay.
1 inch for the Earth diameter. So that's like a half-inch radius.
Right. Oh, I guess that makes more sense. Yeah.
The sun, our sun, would be squished into a size about the radius of Rhode Island to create a black hole.
Oh, that seems way bigger than I expected.
Well, I don't.
Wow. I mean,
I
obviously,
don't think that you have.
I have.
Most people don't.
Yeah, obviously.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. You go.
I guess. I mean, because I understand, like the sun is so big you can't even comprehend it.
Yes.
But at the same time, being squished to the size of Rhode Island still seems too big. Like it's weird. Like I don't know. Like maybe it's just my own mind. What I imagine is that that feels huge. Like it feels like so scarily huge. And obviously, like that would. I mean, we'd be wiped out of existence instantaneously. That's interesting though.
I'm gonna send you a video at some point today that compares if the Earth was the size of a golf ball, how big and how far away would the sun be?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is I have some like scale in my mind. It just I'm not saying it. I know it's big. I'm saying it feels big. That's and because you know me, I'm very in touch with my emotions. But anyway, I think we've gone long enough about physics. My perspective.
You think we've overthought this one?
Yeah, we did. No, I think there's more thinking to be done actually on this one. I'll say that.
Okay.
Yeah, for the first time in the show's history of 4 episodes, we have a first. We need to think more about this.
Right.
But moving on. So mine is completely opposite of science. Or maybe not. I mean, maybe there's some science in this. So
I'll make it science.
So I was thinking today about because I was watching this video. And they got to someone they started mentioning politics, and this one guy just went, "I hate politics. Why do they always bring up politics?" Like under his breath, and for some reason that triggered something in me, and I just started thinking about all the times I got frustrated, like in the recent year or two, and then I realized that what I was oftentimes lacking when I got frustrated with someone else or something else was perspective, and then I realized that so many problems would be solved if people understood perspective more. Because on one hand, so especially for me, as a public speaker, especially and a marketer, but especially as a public speaker, you're constantly every single second you're trying to understand how people are seeing you, and then adapting to that, so that way you can accomplish your goal the best way possible. So if I see someone reacting to something emotional I'm telling, then I'm going to lean into it, right? And really get their emotions riled up. If I see someone kind of, not as interested in that, I'll throw out a fact right away. I'll interact, with a statistic to gather their attention. Or I'll say something, that more personal or directly to them, to grab their attention. Or I'll have them do something. So all those are different techniques that I've learned and integrated into my life to get people to perceive me the way I want them to perceive me, or understand people's perceptions and adapt to them. And so while I was looking at the fallacies, and I realized that a lot of times our perception is warped, and that oftentimes leads to the bandwagon fallacy, right? If I'm to understand it right. You just kind of get along because the group is going along this way. So I'm going to go along with this group, right? You see this in politics all the time with, I'm on the left, so I go with this. Like someone was telling me today, yeah, right? Exactly. They're like, someone was telling me today, they're like, if it's blue, you go, or no, wait. I forget what they said. It rhymed. I forget what they said. But I'm like, no. I just outright. I was at the table. And I knew everyone disagreed with me at the table. And I felt the hostility. I was like, whatever. I'll deal with it later. But I'm like, no. Not at all. Who cares? Who they align themselves with? Don't you care about the person? So that was an interesting thing. So all of this kind of triggered this thought that came to me today, which...
Are we talking politics today? Is that what we're doing? Oh, okay.
We're talking about the psychology of politics will be integrated in this. Okay. But I wanted to set my premise up a little bit, okay?
Okay.
So...
Because I'm down. If you want to talk politics, we can do it.
No, I hate... No. First of all, I'm not educated enough, and that's a choice. Second of all, even though I need to get my registration to vote out because... it can't hurt. It could hurt, but it's my duty, I guess. I need to learn how to do it. But because I moved to a different state, that's why I'm not registered. Just for anyone listening. So setting up my premise. So that was some things that I helped realize there's some fallacies involved in this in the perspective of, you marginally agree with me, so I'm going to, so I align myself with you. That's my perspective, right? And everyone else is bad. And kind of ignoring all the other parts that we don't really agree with. Leading into this in a more, it becomes like a you versus me kind of thing. And that's the perspective we have. That's our mindset. A more tangible evidence is color. We talked about this when we created the show. We were talking about topics, and we brought up colors. Like, well, how do we know we see the same colors? And we don't. But also, the thing I'm really interested in, and I don't know if I have if this is so much of a thought experiment, like this part specifically. I have a thought experiment that it's literally almost exactly what you did, but I think it's a little bit different. It's literally, and I have the question. I literally, in my notes, I have the question is, would you use a teleportation device? It's written. It was already written, like days ago.
That's actually not a question I think either of us answered when I ran through this. So
well, exactly.
We can still have that question.
Get to it then. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. We'll end on a conclusion.
I think I know what to name this episode, though.
What? Would you use it?
Yeah, that would be a great name. Would you use a teleporter?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Done. Makes my life easier.
What do you guys think? We're doing it.
Yeah, what do you guys think? This is already. But so the interesting thing, though, that always confused me was about art. Okay. And how people like different forms of art and different, so for example, I love art that isn't necessarily technically good. Like, I love modern art if it somehow evokes an emotional reaction in me. And for me, that's all art is it should evoke an emotional reaction in you. It's an emphasis. Like, for me, that's why I love Van Gogh so much, because also I identify with him a little too much. But he's the pure essence of just sporadic emotion on canvas, right? At least famously. I'm sure there's many other smaller artists that, imbue that more. I'm not educated enough to know that. We should also call this episode "Luke's Not Educated Enough." But subheading, right? Luke isn't educated enough. But
okay, I got a question for you. Can I? How are you defining art right now?
So art
is anything go, or are you?
Anything goes, really.
Okay.
I think art to me is an expression of your emotions.
Do you consider music to be art?
Yes. That others can consume. I'm sorry?
A good speech?
Less of an art, I would say, because a lot of that is also very technical. Like, the thing, okay, so here's the line I'll draw, is that if it becomes to a point where if you don't have the technical side of it, it's hard to consume. That's where I think, so like with a speech, if someone's very passionate and they can talk and they can share their emotions, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good speech. Because the goal of a speech is to change people's behaviors. It's to give a call to action and have people follow that call to action. Whereas art doesn't have a call to action. Art just is. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I'm not sure that I agree with it.
Okay, like where would you draw the line then in what art is?
I think for me it's so. This is really weird, but I would say that like programming is art, because two programmers will do it fundamentally differently and get the same result.
Then what
and
is
then
it
they'll
art?
both talk trash about each other. Yeah. Right. So it's I would say it's almost dependent on what side of your brain is firing when you do it.
Oh, of course you would give a technical response, Devin.
Of course you would. Are you using
Mr.
creative
Math
juices
major.
or not?
So, here's I think there's two ways to think about that. The technical way of going, okay, is the right side of your brain firing, in this process, right? I got the side right? It's a right. Because left is analytics.
I don't know, but creative.
Yeah, the creative side.
Are you creative juices flowing?
Yeah.
Then it's art.
The other way I would say is that you can imbue art in anything. And that's my emotional side coming out. So, for example, I
concur with that, though.
Okay, good. Because I've recently been starting up a personal chef business to do on the side because it's something I really enjoy. Excuse me. Well, there we go. And so when I approach a meal, I approach the technical side, and I'll say, okay, I just disproved myself. Darn it. I hate it when I
Yay.
do that. It happens more than you would think, and usually happens in my own mind. Very rarely I'll let it go public where I disprove myself within 3 minutes. But for me, the technical part of cooking only serves to make sure that the food is edible. Mm-hmm. It's like, will this kill somebody or not? Will this be, too tough? Will this not be enjoyable to actually digest, right? To cut. Mm-hmm. Like, the main part for me is, how do I make this visually pleasant, taste-wise pleasant, and feel like an overall feel of it to be enjoyable, new, fresh, exciting, so that when you're biting into it, you go, I wonder, like, I can't wait to see what this is like. That's how I approach cooking. So I guess I just disproved myself because I approach the same way as a speech.
Yay. So I just looked it up, and I think we both are agreeing with, like, Google's definition of art.
Oh, what is art? Okay.
Google says art is the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination.
Yeah, typically in visual form.
Yeah.
Although music is like is the biggest art form in the world, I would argue. Producing.
No, I stopped there because after that point it starts giving examples, but the first comment felt like the only part that was a definition.
Well, dance as well. So yeah, I guess I'm wrong. Okay, fine. I'll admit I was wrong in the beginning. I was too hasty.
You're right now though.
No, wait, what did you say in the first? Here's a quote you said in the first episode, which I nearly broke my computer trying to export it to section it off, because right before I had everything, it was right before we were recording, and I nearly just shut down and broke all of my programs doing it. But you said no, it's about humans. We're wrong. And that is, I love that so much. I'm gonna apply it everywhere.
I need context.
I don't know what the context was. I really don't know. You're like, oh yeah, so we're right. You go, no, it's about humans. We're wrong. And I just love it because it's like, yeah, we don't know what we're talking about.
Right.
Both us
we have
and
no
humanity
idea.
in general. We know less though, I would say. So I think so. Here's the interesting thing about art. So. And this is why, when I'm passionate about something, I tend to commit my most logical fallacies, and most fallacies in general. So
as soon as you get super emotional, you stop being logical. That's human nature.
I was just premising. Thanks for just shooting me down. Shooting me down, I should say.
I thought I was being nice.
No, you're fine. But where was I at? Darn it. Oh, talking about function. So I think there's two parts to art. One is that is mostly universal, is the actual function. So the technical side of it. The technical side of it is like with dance, is that this is how you step, this is how you do so.
Yeah.
That doesn't change really unless we come across a new discovery which changes the technical idea. So if we come across a new kind of paint, we're going to apply new technical skills to that, right? Something like that. But for me, the part that makes it art versus anything else is the expression of passion. So, for example, I went to a museum in London when I was there, and Van Gogh's exhibit was closed, and I'll never be angry about something in my life.
What?
Van Gogh's had an exhibit there, and it was closed for renovation. Yeah. And I will never be as angry as I was then. Or sad angry. Like not righteously angry, just sad. Disappointed. Because I got so excited. But I basically toured the museum for like a couple hours. And I would just go, I would go through most paintings without really giving them a second glance. Even though they were technically beautiful. There was really no emotion I felt from it. It just looked like a nice thing. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I can see the way you put the shadows there and the person here. And I could technically this creates depth of field and this line is slightly off. And that gives it a little bit of a jarring sensation due to the chaotic time. Whatever, right? I'm like, fine. I know enough about art to give it general criticism, a general public criticism. But then there were some pieces that, and I'll send you for the show notes. I'll send you some of the pieces I loved, so you can include them. Okay. Is that so? You can go to overthinkingpodcast.com and you could see the pictures I'm talking about. There was one picture in particular, and I have it saved. What it's called. And I stood there for at least half an hour. I literally just stood there and looked at it. And I just had an overwhelming sense of emotion. Not one emotion, just every single emotion just being thrown at me.
Was it positive?
No, I'm saying it wasn't positive, it wasn't negative, it wasn't sad, it wasn't happy. It was just, I just felt so much. And I'm very good at that. I'm good at just feeling. Sometimes a little too much. Like I said, I'm in touch with my emotions, and I'm proud of it. But it was so powerful. And I got thinking, I'm like, why does this stand out more than any other one? Technically, it might be even worse than some of the other ones. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I'm setting this up kind of really still. My premise for this thought experiment is, and what I kind of came to is that art doesn't talk to us emotionally. It talks to our experiences because experiences are tied with emotion. So we wrongly attribute art to emotion. Instead, we should attribute art to experiences. And that's my thesis. Okay. Before I go on to the thought experiment, what do you think?
Well, I mean, you said it's your thesis, which means you've already drawn the conclusion.
Oh, is that what the thesis means? That's my premise. Sorry.
That's your premise.
Sorry, yeah, I used the wrong word. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's my. I meant like thesis as in like my idea. So no.
All right, repeat it really elegantly so we can have a soundbite.
Oh, okay, fine. You don't want the bad soundbite to make me look like a little goofball.
I want you to look epic.
Oh, thank you very much. Epic music. Wind blowing in my hair.
Yes.
My premise is that art doesn't. No, wait. Well, see, I can't do that. I can't. I need it written down.
Okay. Luke's premise is that art does not speak to us emotionally. It speaks to us based on our prior experiences.
Thank you, Devin, very much. I appreciate you in every way, shape, and form.
I felt like that was a good opportunity for me to do that so people didn't think I just wasn't paying attention, and that's why I told you to repeat it.
I knew you were paying attention.
Yeah.
I know you. I know you pay attention. You're a good listener. So, with all of that in mind, I wanted to bring new context to what you were saying, because the thought experiment that I brought up was that let's examine two different situations. A kind of a different way of looking at nurture versus nature is that if you have two baby clones, right, same DNA. Mm-hmm. But they grew up leading different lives, how similar will they be? Versus two different people living the exact same life. And for me,
I like that.
Right? So for me, at first, when I thought about this, is that this answered a clear nature versus nurture. Because for me, nurture is everything. Like it's 95 to 97% of how you become as a person and how you act.
Right.
Versus because I think most people would say if they had two clones living different lives, they'll be completely different people. That seems kind of logical, right? Based on just our intimate knowledge of humanity and how people change versus situations.
Well, I mean, that is the whole reason there's a debate is that it, the general premise has been challenged by scientific exploration.
Exactly.
Right. Philosophically, I'm in a very similar camp. I think we are nothing more than accumulation of our experiences.
Yeah, exactly. Because because the example that I always use is that if I never took a web design class when I was 16, at a junior college, because I just needed to take a class and I accidentally just chose that one, I would never have been able to make a career as a web designer. I would have blown by that, and that never would have happened. it might have happened in a different way, maybe later. I doubt it. Because that taught me the fundamentals. That what brought me into marketing. Like, that one class shaped my trajectory of my entire career, of my entire professional career. The same way that having one speech coach have the goodness of heart to train me for free, that also changed the trajectory of my entire life and career, and will continue to do so. So it's those tiny little moments that if they never happened, like pivotal moments, right? I think Doctor Who would call them fixed points in time. Or am I?
You hope.
All right. That's a little. Okay, fine. That's a little egotistical. Excuse me.
I don't think that's true. No, it's not egotistical. It's just like you hope, because if that's not a fixed point, you can change still.
I mean, you can always change, but like I will never be able to unlearn like the fundamentals of design, of color theory, of like just different things that I subconsciously see the world through and how I understand things. That will never go away. Like I can't, like, unless I actually get dementia and lose my memories, which is an interesting thing, right? Another interesting thought experiment, which is also really sad because it'll probably happen to me eventually because it runs in the family, is that I'll never be able to unsee, like if I look at a billboard, I'll never be able to see it as I did before, you know? So that's my kind of interpretation of that. And I've realized I had a more concrete like outline of how I wanted to go, especially like in my mind. And then I just got excited about it. and I realized, and see, this is a learning opportunity. I realized I need more and more strict outlines when I talk about things I'm passionate about.
You looked it up.
I what?
You looked it up.
I did look it up. Which is a positive thing. I'll say that. Looking it up is not looking it up. It's looking it up. And that means to be so passionate about something that you just rush through all of your ideas at once. How do you like that for a definition?
I like that definition. We're gonna roll with that.
I don't know. So that's kind of like so I think to bring it back to perspective is that the motivational speaker side of me says that because we're nothing more than our perspective, I mean, like how we see the world, right? It's how we interpret things is our perspective. It's so important to choose the events that give us perspective and to react well to the events that we are out of our control. So I think that's like that was like my conclusion personally, was that it's so like how we choose the events we go to, like whether we decide to go out drinking or spend time working on a project, that kind of thing, like that's so important, and it's so much more important than we give credence to, and not necessarily like that, but like every single event we choose to incorporate. So how we choose to give our time. It impacts us for the rest of our life, which is interesting, right? And we could always use things the way we do. What's that look on your face? I'm trying to interpret it right now, and it's like it's not a laugh, it's not a smile, it's you going like, yep. Like it looks like you look very a little satisfied, if I'm using that word.
So this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but that look was just me interpreting what I think you were experiencing right there. Because like you made a point and I fully agreed with it, and then you were kind of expecting a response and you didn't get one, so you were continuing on but not really knowing where to go. It's just like, oh, that's fun to watch.
And I know you did it on purpose. See, here's the thing with you, okay? Is you use me, and to be honest, I'm guilty of this as well with other people. I have a hard time doing it to you because you're good at this. Is you're like, I wonder what will happen if I just don't answer him. This is interesting.
No, that's not even how I think.
Let's observe. Oh, that's interesting. That was different than my...
It's not even how it is. It's like, I don't have a response because I fully agree, so that I don't respond. And then I can see that you're like, why isn't he responding?
You enjoy it, though. Don't lie to me. So why don't we use the remaining time we have to explore, would you use a teleportation device? And then, of course, what variations of the teleportation device would you use? If you wouldn't use the normal disintegrates you, like let's say like the baseline teleportation is that
Star Trek's teleporter.
Yeah, disintegrates you, creates a new you. Would you enter that?
If you spin that either way as like the deconstruction of matter and then the reconstruction with new matter, or if you say it's deconstructing matter to send it and be reconstructed, those are two different premises, right?
See, for me, it's not okay. Explain why. And I think the reason why you're saying that is because you would. Are you saying that the soul would follow the construction of matter you would have?
Oh no.
Are you looking at this?
I'm not giving an opinion yet. I'm just pointing out that there are two different ways of interpreting this.
But why is that different? I don't understand why it's different. If it's still the end result of the material.
So if your matter is deconstructed and sent somewhere else then reconstructed, every single atom is the same atom. It's got the same numerical identity. We talked about that earlier, right? It's got the same numerical identity. And it's got the same qualitative identity. Does that make it the same thing? Versus deconstructing you and then using new matter to create something, which has the same qualitative identity, but it is different numerically.
But it would be the same on a quantum level. Like if you looked at it through the best microscope, it would still be you could look at both cells, right? You could look at both. You could identify both bodies, and they would be the same. So that's why I'm not understanding why it's different.
So let me ask you this: I have two hydrogen atoms.
Hydrogen atoms.
Hydrogen. I have two hydrogen atoms. One side by side.
Yeah.
Are they the same thing?
I would argue, they can't be. Well, I mean, no.
Okay.
Because they can't be broken. Well, I guess. This is testing my knowledge of what's it called? Study of the tiny things. What's that study called?
That's quantum
mechanics. That's what it is. This is testing my knowledge of quantum mechanics. Because I'm trying to do a refresher because I haven't studied this in a while. And by studied, I mean read articles, watch videos of people far smarter than me explaining it. If we go smaller, a hydrogen atom isn't the smallest you can go, right? There's still things that are smaller than that, correct or no?
Philosophically speaking, there's a strong debate on how small you can go, as far as if you can always go smaller or not. Right. But ignoring that, scientifically, every atom is made out of electrons, protons,
That's what
neutrons.
I was saying. Okay, yeah, exactly. So
electrons are made out of quarks.
Exactly.
So there are smaller levels.
Okay, that's what I was forgetting. Okay, I was forgetting the order that went in. Got it.
Yeah.
So I would argue that yes, there's no you would never be able to tell the difference between those two.
So I would challenge you on that heavily.
Okay.
Because to me, because we can break it into smaller parts, and it's these smaller parts stacked up to make this thing, asking, are these two hydrogen atoms different than each other, is very similar to asking if two people are different from each other, or if two universes are different from each other. Because we're going in orders of magnitude, where there are still things that are insanely smaller that are making those things.
The argument between relating to the people is that we can tell the difference between people.
And universes. And I argue if we observe them, which we can't do yet, we would observe differences in the atoms.
Okay, well, let's make an assumption. So here's the difference. I would say I'm trying to relate two different thoughts in my brain right now. Okay. One is that what's the word? I was not prepared for a debate in quantum mechanics. Linking. You're familiar with that, where you two atoms will become intertwined, and then they'll basically be connected. And if you do one thing to one atom, the other one responds exactly the same way.
Is this different than just an electrical bond?
No, this is the basis of Ender's Game of the physics in Ender's Game.
Oh, I haven't.
Two. Atom intertwining. Let me just get the right words.
Pause your recording right now and see if you can guess the word Luke is looking for.
Yeah, I'm trying atom intertwining. Here we go. All right. A single quantum entanglement. Duh. That's what it's called. Quantum entanglement. So I learned about this a while ago, and then I was reading Ender's Game. And so if you read Ender's Game, this doesn't come up at all. You read the further books, and it's the foundation of all the further books, where people become more entangled the more you get near them. That explains like how you can relate to someone better if you know them better, and you can like feel things from a far distance. Like you can feel someone's in trouble, and why you can't explain that feeling, even though you feel they're in trouble and they were in trouble, right? So like that kind of thing. So obviously it makes leaps. It makes like a lot of that isn't real. Like the foundation of quantum entanglement is real, but he makes science fiction. He sci-fi's it up. But that was a very interesting idea of where quantum entanglement can go. So that's why I'm kind of, that was the other thing about teleportation, is that another idea of how to teleport people and how a scanner like would work is that all the atoms become entangled, so that way it literally becomes you. So all of the stimulus, so like it's hard to explain, and I'm not educated enough, but so that's why I'm like pausing a little bit and not giving you a straight answer.
I mean, Luke, you said it in the intro. We're not experts on any of this.
Right, exactly, we're not. But I wish, I honestly, this is like quantum physics and is something I really wish I was more educated on, because it's just so like there's so much it's so interesting because we don't see it. We can see the stars, we can see like a ton of other stuff, and all of that is very like I always wanted to be an astronaut. I still kind of and one of my bucket lists is to go to space. So I'm still fascinated by that, but there's so much deep in the ocean that just we don't know. Like we've never seen before. No one's seen. And it's the same thing with quantum mechanics, is that it's just we don't know. And that's us.
We don't know anything about anything.
Yeah, but it's us. Like that's the other thing, is that this is what we're made of. And we don't know what it is. Which is so right? So and that's why I think that the question of the teleporter has to be left up in the air, is because we don't know what we're made out of. We don't know, we can't scientifically prove a soul, right?
Yeah.
So
that's actually a topic I want to do for an entire episode.
Okay, perfect. Okay, fine. That's fine. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things is that changes everything. If we find there are smaller subparticles, than the ones that we knew existed, then we go, oh wait, well now we have to make these match to create the right human being, right? And all of a sudden, there's not trillions of things that need to be the same. There's, a Google things.
Orders of magnitude.
Orders right.
Exponentially.
The more we discover what makes up the small things, it exponentially increases the difficulty of replicating that. That's why I think that we teleportation in that respect will never work, because I think we'll be continuously discovering what things are being made out of.
Right. And I think there's actually a really interesting notion there too, that Star Trek's version of teleportation is cloning with an extra step.
Exactly.
And why not just talk about the physics of cloning?
And that's true. Yeah, that's basically, and that's, I mean, it's a little disappointing too, because I mean, it's just an easy way out of it. Is like, oh yeah, we just we make the clone of you, and for me, I think that it's interesting because I don't, again, right? I don't know enough about replicating memories, but I feel like it's more of a belief than anything else, right? Which is just funny because I'll say outright that a belief is just something that's untested, and so I mean, and no, sorry, I'm saying words I don't mean. You understand what I mean though, right? I'm losing my mind.
I think. I mean, do you understand what you mean at this point?
Okay, back up. I think if it were cloning, then I would never, ever use it. Because I do not believe that it would be me. Yeah. Regardless of whatever scientist tells me, I'm like, I'll take the long way. I don't care. I'll travel. I'll spend the extra 12 hours traveling. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right? If it's an opportunity to go to a different planet and live there, then that would raise my consideration and go, it might be worth the risk. It still wouldn't. I still wouldn't do it. But that would be like where I'd waver to be like I'd almost do it.
Right. How do you think your decision would change if you had been born into a society that had teleporters?
I wouldn't think about it. Well, that's the difference.
Do you think you'd never think about it?
I mean, I think the thing is that that's a hypothetical where I think that
It is.
I think that the logical conclusion of a society that has a lot of teleports is that it's well understood the risks involved. Mm-hmm. So it's not something I would never think about, is because it'd be something that I'd be brought up with, is the fear of teleportation. Because I mean, look at we have vaccines, and people are say that they're evil. And of course, there's varying degrees of that. Of course, there's people who are cautious. There are people who are just who call doctors evil people. There's of course there are gradations of that particular argument. But I see the same thing happen with teleports, where there's people that go, well, I don't know, I won't use them. I won't stop you from using them, but I won't use them. There's the people, and then there's the people that would actively destroy teleports because they think that they're killing people. And I think because of the way human nature works, we'd grow up in that world. Yeah. Hypothetically speaking, if for some reason no one ever was concerned about them, I doubt I personally, because I just always think about things that are like meaningless. Like I'll think about like, oh, my monitor. I wonder how that works. I wonder if this is like, if this thing, blah, 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 right? Like, and I'll spend some time like going like, I'll go on a loophole of YouTube, trying to understand like how pixels are displayed and stuff like that. So like me personally, yes, I would wonder if like what it was. But I would assume, so that's I mean, so yeah, so that's my answer. It's a bad answer. And it's inconclusive. It's not answering what you said, but yes.
Right. Well, I mean, to be perfectly fair, that's a hypothetical that we could never answer fully accurately, yeah. Right? You can't project an experience you haven't had. Mm-hmm. I honestly think myself, in the way that I've been, if I were born into a society where teleporters were the primary use of transportation, mm-hmm. I would probably use them without thinking about them until I was like 17.
Yeah, that's probably me too. Yeah, I'd probably be honestly though. I'd probably be a little older, depending on like if I have the same problems growing up.
Right. then well, that's actually why I thought of it too.
Yeah.
Because when I was 17 was when I started questioning everything.
Yeah.
And that was when I would look at those teleporters. I'd be like, wait a minute.
Well, for me, yeah. So,
how many times have I died? Like.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I would probably. Yeah, I'd probably teleporters because it's such an extreme thing. I'd probably question mm-hmm. sooner than I kind of like did like everything else in my life, like in my real life here, just because there's just such an extreme thing. So like fanciful, I think. Although then again, when was the last time you questioned if your car was safe?
Right, that was the comparison I was going to use. And I guess cars are a really good example because there are people who are like, oh, they're terrible for the environment. Yeah. But then they drive their cars.
Well, beyond that, they'll say that they're... I mean, and I think... So personally, I don't think people should be allowed to drive. I think that it should be... I think that once we have the technology, it should be immediately illegal for people to drive. Because we are terrible drivers.
I'm going to counter that just with, like, equity issues. As soon as we get the technology, it's expensive and out of reach.
Yeah, okay.
And now...
Fine, you make me put caveats on everything, Devin. Once, I would say... Okay... Fine. See, that's the thing, is that this is how I think in my own brain, and then usually what happens like an hour later, I'll go, that's kind of extreme. I should probably taper that down. The problem is when it's out and recording,
and
an hour later,
and you've never thought of it.
And then I realize, oh darn it, I said that. Of course, I'm not gonna ban poor people from driving. Right? I would fall under that category. I wouldn't be able to afford a new self-driving car.
Right.
I don't right now. Because we do have self-driving cars.
I can't afford a new car that's not self-driving.
Well, that one too. So obviously, it'd be slowly phased out once the technology becomes more affordable, once it becomes more mainstream. And once
kind of the same way seatbelts were made,
exactly.
then they were made and everything. Then you weren't allowed to not use them.
Yeah, and then horses weren't allowed to, ride on the streets.
Yeah, cars won that fight.
I mean, it's hard. Horse versus car.
That actually, like, you should look into the history of that. It's crazy. Like,
I know
they had to use slander campaigns to make cars win.
Well, pedestrians. That's where jaywalker came from. Yeah, was calling people jaywalkers to get them off the streets so cars could use them. Yeah, that was interesting, right? I think we watched. Do you watch the Adam Ruins Everything? Is that where you got it from?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's where I got it from. Yeah.
Highly recommend the show. Anyone
really?
who's listening. It's
fun.
Fun.
Adam annoys me to death.
I think it's a fun show.
It's a fun show, but the problem is that he's sometimes just a little bit of a douche. Like,
well, intentionally. It's his character. It's his bit.
Yeah, but I don't care. It's annoying. It just really annoys me. I'm just like, come on. I'm like, you're just annoying me. And then he'll say things that like are maybe true but don't really matter. Or he has a whole episode about like how Facebook is stealing your data. I'm like, we know. We're like, yeah, we got it. Stop. Like,
that's a great episode. What are you talking about?
Whatever.
I really like the analogy it draws, just with the whole notion of like anyway, what I took away from that I say to people. Is it's if it's free, it's because you're not the customer, you're the product.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I guess maybe that's not widely known. Like, for me, it's like, oh, it's free. Okay, that's fine.
Right. Well, you're a marketer. You're in that world.
I guess so, yeah. This is the curse of knowledge.
Most people don't realize the first 3 results on Google are ads.
Really, though?
Really, though.
Okay. I want to find some statistics about that. That would actually be an interesting part in our...
How would you do that study?
You just interview people. You just have them go on Google, search, and then click on the one that they found, and then ask them later, did you click on an ad? And then see what they respond later after some time has passed. I would say like that would be an easy way, right? And then you have a control group that they don't have ads on there, that kind of thing. But what was I gonna say? Teleportation. Well, curse of knowledge. That was the thing.
Yeah.
Which is
that's exactly what it is.
Ever since I learned about that, I've been I constantly am thinking about that, except when I'm not, which is like now. But the time I should be thinking more because I'm on a podcast is the time I think less. Also the problem is because I feel if it's just me, I'm more cautious because there's no one to catch me, but I know you'll catch me. So that's the problem, is that I feel too safe, and I know
that's funny. I would think that you'd be way more cautious because you don't want to be called out.
No, it's funny. Because I'll just go like when I'm with somebody else, I'm the most carefree. When I'm by myself, that's when I'm most careful.
I'm your anchor.
Yes. Well, no, not so much an anchor as like a trampoline.
You said yes.
You're my net. You're my net.
I don't hold you down. You bounce off of me.
Like a little the ping pong ball things. Like, that's me and you. That's literally. That's me and like most of my friends.
I want to remake the image now. It'll be so great.
It's just me on a ping pong ball thing, and you're like trying to pull me back up, bouncing off you, going out again. I hate how well that describes me and my friends.
I really think we should make that picture. Though.
Okay, I promise. Okay, this is a Luke promise. I'll Photoshop that for the show notes.
Nice.
All right. So that'll be an image we'll have on the show notes in addition to we'll have beautiful art and then a Photoshop version of you and me as a ping pong.
Well, by your definition of art, I can see the emotion it just elicited out of you. It will be beautiful art.
It will be art. I don't know if it'd be considered beautiful.
By your definition, it'll be.
I mean, it'll be funny. I think there's a difference between beautiful and funny, and good. But anyway, so
definitely won't be good.
Okay, yeah. So to close off, we're hitting the hour and a half mark, or I think we started this a little bit later, so we might be a little below that. But so teleportation.
I didn't think we were that rigid about time.
I'm not. I just like. There's a certain point to where you just start talking, like me. Like I know, like I have enough training to understand that there's a certain point where you just start talking, and then like you stop adding, right? Something I do all the time, and then I catch myself. I'm like, oh, I'm not adding anything. I'm just talking. So I try to pull out fun facts like that. But so teleportation device, I would use it if it actually transferred not my body into particles. Like if there's a way if a portal situation where I'm physically where my body stays intact and it simply moves through space.
Yeah.
If you bring if you're bringing 2 points in space to one singular point and I pass through that, that's something that I would go, okay, I'm not being disintegrated.
Teleporter versus trans.
The space around me is being changed. I'm not being changed.
You know, there's another philosophical struggle in that one that could talk about for probably 20 minutes. Probably wouldn't be an episode, but
what? Well, we could. I mean, I bet I can make it faster. What?
I mean, in that world, how do you know that you're entering into the same universe?
Oh, that is a good. Well, I know. I think no. Wait, no. I think that'd actually be simple because observers would be able to see you entering that universe. Because you would come back. So let's say I'm observing me go in, and I see me go into one side, and then somehow I'm able to observe me coming out the other side, right? If I went into another universe, there'd have to be another universe where I do that. It'd have to be that falls into the infinite universe theory.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm hitting at.
So that's exactly so. That I don't like the infinite universe theory. To me, just it doesn't. There's just not. I don't. Well, on one hand, I don't believe it. On another hand, I haven't been proven. I haven't seen.
You can't be.
Exactly.
You literally can't be.
Exactly.
Whereas is the definition of blind faith if you believe in the infinite universe.
So, and I'm sure some like Stephen Hawking types have tried, but you know better than me. So that's why I don't like feel at all in danger because I'm just like, yeah, nah. And if that is the case, then it doesn't matter really, because if the infinite universe theory holds up, then nothing really matters that much, because there's another universe where everything else is happening simultaneously.
So that's a really interesting statement that you just made, with the notion that if there's an infinite universe, then what I do doesn't matter. And if I end up in a slightly different universe, it doesn't matter.
Because there might be
but
one
if you change from traditional teleportation, you think that matters.
And then, okay, so I'm trying to separate myself emotionally from this and think about this. Actually, like for once, think about this logically. Here's my fears of so it's a teleportation device. My concern and my hesitation comes from I am being killed.
Yes. I think we can agree with that.
And then I'm being created again. Mm-hmm. For me, that's vastly different than I'm moving in to another universe where like a tree is a centimeter to the left. I'm like, first of all, like, so that's the difference for me is that no one's dying.
Well, the difference here...
That's the difference for me.
Okay. So the difference I see is in one version, it's a different you that nobody knows is a different you. And in the other version, it's a different universe and nobody knows it's a different universe. So both versions, from the outsider's perspective, don't really look like a change has happened.
Right.
But one change you're okay with, which is an entirely different reality.
Well, because they're never...
And another change you're not okay with, which is a different you.
Yeah. And similar to the other one, it would be hard to test. It would be almost impossible to test. Especially with the alternate universe. Unless there was something in your life that was different, that would be the only way that you could know if someone looked differently or someone like had like some kind of small change where you go, wait a minute, I know for a fact that that is different. I'm in a different universe.
Right.
The possibilities of that happening are infinitely small.
You know what's really funny about that too, though? If that let's run with that. Let's say that occurs. Then in this new universe, it also has this form of teleporting that's very commonly used. You're the first person who's experienced this. You go out and you try to tell everybody. You just look crazy.
Wait, not necessarily, because they have teleportation.
Right, exactly. They've all been using teleportation. They've adopted it. You come out and you're like, hey, teleportation doesn't do what you think it does.
No. Okay, so that's what what I'm saying is that because so here's my closest understanding. So my understanding of physics would be that, and the alternate universe theory would be that I would enter the closest universe to our own. Correct? I mean, I think that's a general. So if I had a wormhole and I went through a hole, and for some reason that pierced reality, the easiest point to pierce would be the one where the least has changed.
I I don't think there's any.
I thought
I don't
that
think
was
there's any way to defend that idea.
I might be getting that from a sci-fi show. I don't
think there's any way to defend that idea.
I'm not saying there's any way to defend that. I thought that was like the general thought process around Infinite Universe. I thought that was like the general thought around it.
There's I don't think there's any way to know even what rationally makes sense in this concept. But the idea that like universes are somehow running parallel to each other, like literally they're lines, right? And then the lines that are close to each other are the most similar universes. So you want to go as far away as possible if you want to see something different. Right. I mean, on a 2D plane that makes sense, but we're not on a 2D plane. We're not on a 3D plane. We're not on a 4D plane. Infinite Universes actually forces at least 5 dimensions. Yeah. So what does it even mean to be next to something? Becomes a harder question.
True.
And in all likelihood, if you take those lines 3-dimensionally, they can still be parallel, but going very different directions.
Oh, that's actually a good point. That is actually a good point. Okay, fine. I'll accept that then. I didn't think about it like that. So yeah. So back to that. So I guess So you're right. You're right. I would look like I'm crazy because everyone else has been doing it. If that situation occurred where I come to a place where it's a bit futuristic and everyone's been using them.
Right. And there's a big enough difference for you to know you're in a different universe. Yeah. Is an important premise there, right?
And if I wasn't if I wasn't the first person, so like if I was the test subject, and there's also in this universe I was also the test subject, then I could say, and there was something different, then I could say there's something different. I'm in a different universe. Then everyone would believe me. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. But if I'm not a test subject in this other universe, then no one would believe me because they're like, no.
And then like if the universe you're in tests it, the other universe doesn't have teleportation. No one's gonna believe you.
Well, I mean, I'd have to have teleportation, right, in a different universe in order to enter, right?
Maybe.
Like, otherwise, I don't see how I would actually enter.
Sure.
I mean,
let's hit that premise. Yeah. Sure. If teleportation in both realities is the most common mode of transportation, and now something's obviously different,
that would actually be an interesting book.
Write it. I'll read it.
Here's the book idea: is that you're the first person in the world in all of history of like thousands of years of using teleporters. The chance of seeing something in your own life that's different, like out of all of the atoms in the universe, is so small, right? But you're the first person to actually notice a change. And you realize you're in a different universe. And you're trying to get back. And so basically you start hopping through universes, trying to strategically hop through, trying to get back to yours. And there's this one like specific thing of like, someone you love or like something on your hand.
What's crazy about that?
Like you have a scar on your hand that's gone in this universe or something like that, right?
So this is crazy though, because if you've been using teleportation frequently and this is the first time you've seen something different, how do you even know which universe
yes! Yes! Exactly. And then he becomes the only person who knows it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're just like, wow. Like no one else. And then you just start looking for other so-called crazy people, that claim this. Yeah. And start interviewing them. This is a detective book. I have too many book ideas. You should see. Have you?
All right, Luke.
Okay. I think we have overthought this.
I do too. I think the one person who's still listening out of the 2 people who listen, which is you and me, is probably about that.
Me because I have to edit it. You're not listening the whole. You're like, I got the show notes all done. I'm done. I'm not finishing this.
You're gonna come back and be like, Devin, how come the last 40 minutes didn't have any show notes? Nothing worth mentioning.
You just put in the show notes, Luke from an hour, on Luke talking excessively. I will laugh. Okay, you should actually do that. That would be hilarious. I would laugh so much. We should have fun with this. This is our show. We do whatever we want.
I'm having fun.
And who cares if anyone doesn't listen? I don't want you anyway, right? That's the theme. I have to do that every show, right? I have to insult the viewer and tell them to go away.
But you have to stop admitting that you're doing it. You just gotta do it.
Yeah, but then they'll think I'm real, and I do want them to listen. I like them.
Well, no, because there's like 4 episodes in a row where you've pointed out that it's not real. So at this point, if they think it's genuine, then they weren't real fans anyway.
True. Then we really don't want them. Good, and I mean that one. Okay, we have thoroughly overthought this. This has been a very passionate episode. There's so much more about art that I can talk about. Analyzing Eminem's Rap God is one of my favorite discussions when it comes to art and what is art, because I don't actually sorry.
Luke, we're trying to go. You're starting a new topic.
No, I'm not. What
are you doing?
I'm teasing new topics. Sorry, not Rap God. Another one of Eminem's songs, I'm blanking on the name. I actually disagree that it's actually art. It's a song that I don't think is art. Okay. So it's a very, right? So yeah, exactly. So that is a preview of an episode to come.
Somewhere between episode 5 and episode 555.
Exactly. Probably 50, to be honest, because I feel very passionate about that too. But anyway, do we want to do plugs? You can just search my name, Luke Maxwell. You can find everything I'm doing. I'm doing personal chef stuff. I'm doing speaking, podcasting.
Legit question for you, Luke. By the time this airs, is my website up?
Oh yeah, definitely. It won't air till next month.
Yeah. You want to connect closer with me? You can check me out at speakingindefense.com.
Yeah, speakingindefense.com. That way you get a little bit of both of us. If you scroll down to the bottom, if you want it there, if you don't, I'll understand, and that's okay. But if you don't object, I have a little tagline, created with passion by Luke Maxwell, that I put on all my sites.
I had that in my website when I had a marketing company.
Because I did give discounts on all my deals. I usually, leave that as a little thing. Also, it's out of the way. Most people will never see it. But that will have a link also to everything. So go to his, see the website I beautifully made, and then click on that link, and you can find me somewhere. I have no idea where that link is going to go right now, but I'll figure it out.
Cool.
All right. Thank you all for listening. We still don't have an outro.
And
that's it.
Can that be our outro?
That's it.